Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff.
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
Doing all right.
Well, good. I'm glad. I'm sorry I woke you up from your nap.
Right. No, it's just we're recording much later than we usually do.
That's true. Yeah. Because of my new work schedule, we're gonna have to try out a couple other things and see what works. I guess.
And this will be fine. Like, I'm not actually that tired. Like, I'm definitely drowsy because it's getting towards the end of my night. But like, I'm not like falling asleep or nothing.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be an issue. It's I might actually hold on.
Oh no.
I think I started something there. Oh dear. Okay. No, we're good.
Yeah. So
how you doing?
With my new work schedule, like I have to get up a little earlier than I used to have to, like a couple hours earlier.
Yeah.
And so far it's been, I've been doing it pretty well, but I'm not sure if it's just my body is still in like, the mode where I'm panicked. I'm afraid that I'm going to oversleep. So the slightest thing wakes me up.
Right. Yeah. You're sort of not adjusted to it just yet, but you're at that part where you get that sort of like adrenaline rush or whatever.
Sure. But yeah, so it's a new year. This is our first episode of our fifth year of podcasting.
Woo!
I know I'm making this overly complicated because we've been recording for 4 years.
Yeah.
We're starting our fifth year.
Right.
So,
it's whatever.
Yeah. Well, we've got a couple guests lined up for the coming months. So I think that's a good thing. We got some interest after the listener submissions episode that we just did. So yeah. Still extending that out there. If anybody out there is interested in being on the show or knows anybody that they would like us to reach out to,
right? Yeah. If there's any other podcasts you guys listen to that you think would be interesting to have on the show, let us know.
Yeah, it's always a little scary to reach out to another podcast, but it really shouldn't be. Like almost every podcast that I've reached out to has responded and said yes. I haven't. Yeah. I've reached out to a bunch, and most of them are like, "Oh yeah, sure." We had Paolo from the Film Reroll, and I thought surely he'll be too busy to chat with little old me and Jeff.
Right.
But no, he was on. We had him on a couple of years ago. I did reach out to the McElroys a long time ago. They did not respond. That's understandable. They are
sure,
quite a bit more famous than any of us. But
right, yeah. It's like it's. I don't think they would have a schedule open anyway.
Sure.
Am I dreaming, or did we have one of the duck feed guys on?
We did. Yeah, we've actually. Technically speaking, we've had two of the duck feed guys on. We had Gary. We didn't have Cole. Cole is I don't think has guested on many other things. But then we had Will Hughes from Everything to Guppy, which is also a duck.
Oh, right.
Podcast.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay.
And they had a little thing. They started a thing on Everything to Guppy where if you leave them a review, they'll read it on their show. And so I left a review and I said something along the lines of like, I have the distinction of having both of the hosts of this podcast as guests on my podcast. And I think one of them even enjoyed it. And I think they had a laugh about that. I was too nervous hearing them talk about us. So
right. Yeah.
Who knows? Anyway, you want to go ahead and get into this episode, Jeff?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. Hey, Jeff.
Oh, what's that, Gabe?
Knock, knock.
Oh, who's there?
The Dragon's Horde.
Should I say the Dragon's Horde who? Or did you have something
Jeff.
Beyond that? Or was that just it?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
The Dragon's Horde.
The Dragon's Horde who?
Just open the door and get in here.
Okay.
So it's the Dragon's Horde. That was that intro was submitted by the Beverage Tea via Discord. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr. or Mrs. Beverage. I believe it's Mr. Beverage, but I don't want to presume. So, see, that's tricky because that does go against our format.
Right. That's good.
Anyway, so Jeff, our item for today was submitted by Tanaros via Discord. I believe Tanaros is a relatively new member of the Discord. And the item today is the Bracers of Crom. This is an artifact because only one pair of them will ever exist. And these bracers require attunement and will only activate for a character with at least 10 levels in Barbarian and with a minimum strength of 18.
Ooh.
So a definite limit to who can use this artifact.
Yeah.
These modest-looking metal bracers adjust to fit automatically. They are dark silver in color and do not tarnish or show signs of wear. A raised relief of a mountain is embossed in the center of each, and running along the border of both is an inscription in some long-forgotten language. When deciphered in some fashion, attunement alone does not reveal it, but a decipher script spell will, for example. It is revealed to read, "No one, not even you, Crom, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. Valor pleases you, and that is what is important. Crom, grant me the power to crush my enemies and see them driven before you." When a character who meets the minimum requirements and has entered a rage recites the inscription aloud, 2 magical greatswords appear in their hands.
Nice.
They appear as modest, though well-crafted swords with no ornamentation. They do not glow or give off any light and cannot be used with a shield. The swords grant all the normal abilities of regular greatswords, as well as granting a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls with each. When the character loses or intentionally drops their rage, the swords disappear. Additionally, if the character has at least 1 level in each of the following, then it grants this ability once per long rest. For a paladin, so if they have 1 level of paladin, these swords grant 1 divine smite as normal per long rest. So not 1 for each sword, but 1 total. One additional divine smite.
Right.
This can be cast at the highest level the paladin would normally be able to cast the spell at, and it does not require the use of a spell slot. For a cleric, the swords grant 1 healing word spell cast as normal per long rest. Now, again, not once per sword, but once total. This can be cast at the highest level the cleric could normally be able to cast a spell at and does not require a spell slot. So yeah, that's this item. It is a pair of bracers that when you fulfill the requirements, you're a 10th level barbarian, you have a strength of 18, and you go into a rage and speak the command paragraph, kind of. So you get 2 magical greatswords, and additionally, if you're a paladin or cleric multiclass, you gain additional stuff. So, I guess this was in response to a few weeks ago. We had an episode where we talked about dual wielding greatswords, or something. Actually, it might have been a while ago. I don't recall exactly how long ago we did this, but I guess that was the inspiration for this item. It's an item that lets you do exactly that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, like that's one of my favorite things in games where like you eventually can like dual wield 2-handed weapons, and you just got giant swords in each hand.
Sure.
I like this because I like the idea of the like artifacts that kind of give you like a whole new play style to a class. Like it's class specific artifacts. Yeah, that sounds really cool. And like I like the added abilities if you also have other classes as well. If you have like if you're multi-classing as a barbarian paladin, that's kind of neat. Yeah.
I would love to see more magic items with benefits for multi-class characters, like specifically for that.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Cuz I mean that is a cool idea for like if you have a player who's playing a multi-class character, and like you kind of want to reward, you want to give them something neat for their character, but like you tailor it specifically to their multi-class, you know.
Sure.
So yeah, like I like the idea of that, where it's like it's, you know, are they playing a bard, a bard cleric, you maybe give them a cool artifact that's an instrument that is also a holy item of some sort, you know.
Yeah. Now I imagine this is a Conan reference. I believe Crom is something from Conan.
Yeah.
I imagine it was probably the paladin and cleric multi-class thing was probably put in as a reference to that. However, if this were more divorced from the lore that it presents, I think it would be cool if there was a different ability for every potential multi-class. So like if there's something for monks, something for sorcerers, something for rogues, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really cool addition to this.
Yeah, like I could see building artifacts for each class that had like minor abilities that go with each other class. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd take a long time, but that'd be really cool.
Sure. I guess in my mind, I'm just thinking because it's artifact level, it could do with a lot more power. Like power-wise, it's not artifact level. I can definitely understand because there's only one of them. I can understand it being an artifact for that reason. However, in that case, I would say boost up that power. Make it plus 3 greatswords, you know.
Right, yeah. And I'd say I understand what they do, but I think maybe a little bit more detail in exactly how it works as far as dual wielding with greatswords, because it doesn't exactly say like this is effectively dual wielding with greatswords without any. Are you still getting the penalty for dual wielding with two-handed weapons?
I guess it doesn't say that, does it?
I mean, like, I think I would assume that's the case. It's an artifact. It's you get to do what it says it does. You know, basically without question. You have two-handed weapons.
Yeah.
So like you can use a bonus action you can attack and then use a bonus action to attack with another greatsword.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So yeah, like it wouldn't be hard for a DM to look at this and be like, oh, okay, like that's the power of this artifact. They can use two-handed or two-weapon fighting or whatever with these two greatswords without any penalty.
Yeah.
But I mean, like spelling it out more would be helpful, and I think would make it easier to bump up the power a little bit once you get more into the mechanics of it. Like you said, you can add more attack and damage to it or something.
Sure. Yeah, but I think thematically this is a great item. I'm not super familiar with Conan. I imagine I would probably appreciate it even more than I already do if I was.
Yeah.
But I like the theming. I think that it's a cool thing that it does, and I like the multi-class benefit as well. I would just say crank up that power. Give it everything you got.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this item. So once again, that was the Bracers of Crom submitted by Tanneros via Discord. Thank you very much, Tanneros. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon Sword, or if they wanted to submit questions for our main segment, or stories for the funeral pyre or retirement village, how would they get those to us?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today.
Woo!
As usual, we're giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2, courtesy of Crit Academy. For anybody not aware, Unearthed Tips and Tricks 2 is a supplement that I helped them write, actually, and it's a collection of 25 character concepts, encounter concepts, monster variants, magic items, player tips, and DM tips, 25 of each, from the Crit Academy podcast. Tons and tons of great content, stuff for players, stuff for DMs, stuff for people not playing the game, just looking for cool stuff. Tons of cool stuff. So who is the winner of this great supplement today?
Our winner today is Ravel G.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes. Congratulations, Ravel. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon, in the next few days. If you don't, be sure to let me know. And be sure to leave Crit Academy a review so that they can continue to make great products and they can get more attention and all that good stuff. So big thank you to Crit Academy for giving us, letting us give these free copies away to our listeners. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like Ravel G and they wanted to get a free copy of this awesome supplement, how would they do so?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with the Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 2 in this subject line.
Yes, be sure to put that 2 in there, or else it'll go in the wrong folder. So yeah, big thank you to everybody. Thank you, Crit Academy. Good job, Ravel. Good luck to everybody out there. And hopefully you, listener, will be our next winner.
Yeah.
Speaking of winners, though, and speaking of Ravel G, what?
What?
We have a new patron today.
Oh.
And that patron is Ravel G. Now, I just want to clarify that is not related to winning. Like, Ravel G won completely separately from becoming a patron. Becoming a patron does not make you more or less likely to win the drawing. I promise. Not even like, it's not even that there's so many people in the drawing that such a thing would make a difference. You'll either win now or you'll win in like 6 weeks. But regardless, Ravel G became a new patron. So thank you very much, Ravel G.
Yes,
It'll be great to have another, it's great to have another patron, and just huge thank you. We're really, really thankful.
Yep.
So for anybody who is not familiar with becoming a patron, Patreon is an online platform. You can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the creator of your choice. And if you go to ours at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict, we've got a few different tiers. We've got the lowest tier has outtakes. It has a bunch of fantasy fiction that I've written. The next tier up has a monthly bonus podcast that Jeff and I do called InterPatronConflict. We just put out one with some, I guess we were talking about just what we did over the holiday break.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we might have talked a little bit about what we're hoping to do this year. I can't remember. Maybe I'm confusing that with our last episode. Whatever the case, bonus podcast on there. We've also on the top tier, we've got a monthly Roll20 game for our top tier patrons. And I think when this goes out, our next game will be in a week. So if you are interested in becoming a patron and you want to be in the game as soon as possible, be sure to get on that to get in there. So, and we had talked about, we were a little bit unsure about what we were going to do regarding the Patreon with my new work schedule. I'm pretty confident that it shouldn't be a problem. My work schedule now affords me more time during the week, and I have fewer full days off, which was my main concern. But anyway, this month is really going to be used as like the test for whether I'll be able to keep this up. But I am very hopeful. So if you were interested, don't feel like this is going to be the last one. I'm pretty confident. But at the same time, if you're on the fence, hold off, wait until next month and see what we do.
Mm.
So anyway, patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Check out the rewards, see if anything appeals to you, and, consider helping out the show and getting some cool stuff in return. And a big, huge thank you to everybody who has continued to donate over the last year. I know it's tough. We say it, everybody says it a billion times. And if you have to cancel, no problem. Don't worry about it. No, don't even have to explain to us why. We totally understand. However, if you are willing to continue to donate during these times, like that's even more awesome. So big thank you to everybody who has.
Yes.
So then one last thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy, critacademy.com. Check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast. Check out D&D Character Lab. They're not making episodes anymore, but they've still got a lot up there. And then check out The Kind GM, which I still haven't had a chance to actually listen to. Maybe I should really get on that. So check all of them out. Enough of all the admin. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
All right, our first question comes from Flash85 on Discord, and they ask, what would you like to see for official D&D content for 2021?
Yeah, so we got a new year here.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might have been I think there's a couple things that have been announced for official D&D releases, but yeah, what are some things that we would like to see in 2021?
Because I know that, like, I still haven't looked at any of the content from the newest book, the Tasha's one.
Yeah.
I still haven't really looked into that too much. So there could be something in there that I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I want. I always like more options. More player options is always fun, just because I like building characters. But I don't know if that really adds anything to the game. I think it just adds more activities for me to do in my spare time when I want to just like sit down and make a character for fun. So
yeah, it's
like more options, please. Whatever. Just throw them out there. Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, campaign settings are fun. There's the one that's like the Greek mythology one. I always forget the name of it.
That is the Mythic Odysseys of Theros.
Yeah.
I actually just bought that right before Christmas because the special edition was on clearance at my local gaming store.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I've been sort of interested like in looking into that one too, just because like I've been not like ever since I played Hades.
It's such a good game though.
It's just such a great game, and I'm like, yeah, Greek mythology stuff based on Greek mythologies can be a lot of fun, and it made me think back to like, yeah, there's some other games that I really enjoyed that had a lot of like Greek mythology like woven into it.
Sure.
And I don't know, like like minotaurs and labyrinths and stuff like that, like or like the Odyssey and things. It's like that. Yeah, a lot of that can work really well in D&D.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, again, there's stuff that I haven't quite looked into yet that already exists that could very well be, something that I would look for, that I would like to see.
Sure. So you want 2021 to like take a break from releasing stuff. Let me catch up on the stuff I already have.
Sure. Yeah. Honestly, yeah, I guess that would be my answer. But
yeah.
But I mean, like, again, more options means just more cool stuff to look at, I guess.
Sure. I kind of feel like there's enough mechanics for 5th edition already. Like, they could take a break from the mechanics. I want more campaign setting stuff.
Yeah.
I would love Planescape.
Mm-hmm.
Like, guys, bring out some Planescape. It'll be awesome. Sure, maybe you'll have to come up with some mechanics for that, but even just like a campaign primer for Planescape, like 1 or 2, character options or whatever. Just give me some Planescape. That would be so cool. Give me like a book about sigil or however you want to pronounce it. That would be so cool for 5th edition.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like a book on sigil would be great. That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. What's the name of the lady?
The Lady of Pain.
The Lady of Pain. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. For anybody not familiar with what we're talking about, we did an episode about Planescape a couple months ago.
Yeah,
it was great. I think it was a good episode.
Yeah.
I also feel like, more adventures could be good. I almost feel like they should come out with shorter adventures. I know that the majority of the 5th edition official adventures have been these like really big, like hardcover things.
Yeah.
And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it would be also cool if there were like, they came out with some paperback ones every now and then. And I mean, like, I know there are less official ones that come out all the time. People make adventures all the time. But like in 3rd edition, there was a series of like, they were full-size adventures, but they were like, 1 or 2 level long adventures as opposed to the ones nowadays. And if you got all of them, it formed an entire adventure path, kind of.
Right.
So I kind of wish that, I like how Wizards is doing these really big epic adventures.
Right.
But I also think it would be cool if there were like smaller ones that you could mix and match and so on.
Yeah, or like a collection of small, like a big book of little adventures, like
sure.
Just like a collection of a bunch of them.
Kind of like the Tales from the Yawning Portal, which was actually, it incorporated some of the 3rd edition adventures that I was just talking about. It is kind of a collection of smaller adventures put together. But those were older adventures, and that's cool and everything, but make up some new ones. That would be cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm thinking like, they could have like just a collection of them that don't necessarily like fit together in any way, but it's just like just like the small, like 1-page adventure kind of ideas or something like that. You could just like, just get like a bunch of ideas in one book or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. Like, yeah, smaller, shorter adventures. People don't have as much time to play the game anymore, and I think that goes for everybody. It's not just like us getting older. It's also just like the world's busier.
Sure.
So like, shorter adventures. I think that's my new answer. Yeah, I like that one.
Okay, cool. I also think it'd be cool if there were more official D&D apps.
Sure.
Like, I always complain about how in 4th edition they advertised there was going to be this, D&D Beyond was like this, not D&D Beyond because that's what we have now. D&D Insider,
right? Yeah,
was going to be this big official online application thing that you could make a character through, and then you could like you could visualize your character and so on. They had a thing they were advertising, the character visualizer, which was going to be like a little 3D. You make a 3D model of your character.
Yeah.
And as well as like a virtual tabletop and like compendium and all this stuff.
Right.
And then at some point they just stopped doing all of that. And it just never came out.
Right. I think they did like the character creation tool or something like that.
They did, they did the character builder, and there was an online compendium you could use, but that was like a third of what they were advertising. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're bringing in all this other stuff too," and then they just never did.
Right.
I know that nowadays, I mean, anybody can make an app. Anybody can. There are tons of free apps that do everything you could imagine for D&D.
Right.
But I would love an official program where you can visualize your character. I know that like Hero Forge is amazing for making a 3D model of your character. Nowadays, I'm pretty sure all of the color options are available for anybody, any user.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
It is so great to be able to make your character on there, get screen captures, send the link to whoever, any game that you play on Roll20 or with your friends in person or whatever you're doing, you can show up with a full color 3D image of what your character looks like. And that's awesome. However, it's not official. Right. I would love if Wizards of the Coast made their own version of that. Maybe it would be redundant because there are other companies that do that probably better, let's be honest. But it would be so cool to have the exact options from D&D be in something that exists. Right. If you could make a beholder or something, or if you could make a character that is wielding an official holy avenger in their picture, that would be so cool.
That's a good point. Like, you could equip your characters with the magic items from the books. That'd be cool. Yeah, I can see that.
Like, I even back in 3rd edition days, I could go on Hero Machine or something and make an image of my character, but I always had to kind of guess because this isn't something that was made for D&D. It was made for just generic whatever. Mm-hmm. So I had to use a lot of tricks to kind of get the options that I would have had in D&D. Yeah. But if it is official, if it is made by Wizards of the Coast, they can have the actual options that the players have, and that feels so much more special, even if it is objectively not as good.
Sure.
So that's something I would love. I would always love an official character visualizer, character portrait maker, miniature maker, whatever. I would love for something like that to come from Wizards of the Coast themselves.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah. Also, I mean, better integration with D&D Beyond. We've complained about D&D Beyond in the past.
Yeah.
Well, we've said other people have said too, but just if they worked with D&D Beyond to be a little bit more palatable to people who already own the books, then that would be great.
Right.
Yep. Probably not going to happen. It's probably not necessary, but it would be great.
Yeah. I would like to see a bigger leap towards like virtual tabletop stuff. Like, and we've said it plenty of times, and like there are good virtual tabletops out there, but most of them have a huge learning curve, and it's not always perfectly integrated with whatever game you're playing. You usually have to find somebody who's made it for you and download it from a different source or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, there's some good ones out there, but like I get it, like an official one, they'd be able to use all their license, like it's their license, so they can put the content in there without having to change the name of everything to get around licensing and stuff.
Right. Squid Monster.
Yeah.
And,
evil space squid monster or whatever. Our next question comes from the Beverage Tea on Discord, and they ask, oftentimes in modules, baddies will be described as having useful consumables as a treasure. As a DM, is it good, bad, or acceptable to use these consumables and not leave them as loot for the PCs?
Yeah. So let's say you're running an adventure. Maybe it's randomly generated. Maybe you're using a pre-written module. Maybe you wrote this at a time and you wanted the players to get some healing potions or a wand with a few charges or like a magic item with some sort of a consumable use. And during the fight, you think to yourself, it would be really helpful if this enemy drank this potion that I put in their inventory. So the question is is that okay? Is that good? Is that bad? Mm-hmm. What's the thought around that? Do you have an opinion right off the bat?
Kinda. I mean, it is really just up to you. It is really up to you if you want to do that. Like, I feel like that is sort of the freedom of a DM. Now, if you think, well, that kind of shortens the list of the treasure. Like the treasure is like, if you kind of set the treasure to be a certain amount of gold worth to make it, worth the while for the party or something like that, you could always just like supplement it with something else afterwards.
Yeah.
But I guess like in the moment you're like, oh, that would be really cool if he drank this potion. Like I feel like go for it. I don't see that as bad. And I don't see it as unacceptable because it's just a thing that's at your disposal as a DM.
Sure.
Unless it was something that was like promised to the players and they were really excited about it, I don't see any bad coming from it.
Yeah. So I just sent Jeff there's a little four panel comic strip that I think is really good. It's two skeletons. They're walking along and one of them is like, oh, there's so many cool weapons here. I mean, like, look at this. And he holds up this glowing magical sword. And then he picks up like a deadly looking axe and he turns to the other skeleton. He's like, what are you going to use? And the other skeleton says, rusty iron spear. Nice. And, it is a common thing to have just run the enemies right as they're written. Just whatever rusty iron spear, and then after the party beats them, they find like, oh, cool, they've got this awesome magic sword or whatever that they very much could have been using against us.
Yeah.
I would say that's mostly the result of laziness as a DM. I don't think any DM does that intentionally.
Right. Or the author of the adventure, not necessarily. The DM might not even realize it until they're reading the list of treasure. Oh, and you find a chest with a holy avenger in it. Wow, that would have been useful to the enemy.
That's a great point. That's actually something that I want to bring up. Hey, adventure writers, please, at the top of a stat block or right at the top of a section talking about an upcoming encounter, please put relevant details like that.
Yeah.
When I was running the Shackled City, I've mentioned the Shackled City many times. It's an adventure. It was Paizo's first adventure path that they did. Before Pathfinder, actually, before they made their own campaign setting. There's this dungeon and you're going through the dungeon and there's all these different keys. Each one is a different letter because it's like all the letters of the name of the city.
Oh, right.
And there's like 15 different keys or something. And I was going through the adventure once and I was like, where the heck? There's one key that I just cannot find. It's not listed in the treasure section of any of these rooms. Where the heck is this last key? And at some point I decided, okay, I guess it's just gone. Like they either forgot to put it in there. Maybe it is lost and they forgot to mention that it was lost, or they mentioned it in some weird thing that I didn't think to read.
Like it's intentionally missing or something.
And eventually I found it. One day I was looking through the back of the book, and this is a hardcover. This is like a 200 or 300 page hardcover. I was flipping through the section of NPC stat blocks at the back of the book, and I noticed one of the NPCs had it in their at the bottom of their stat block, 200 pages after the encounters where the players would have encountered them.
Right.
If it's like, okay, a word to DMs, make sure you read all the NPC stat blocks so that you know what they have access to. I'm assuming that the beverage tea is coming from a place of, yes, I've read all the NPC stat blocks. I know what they have, and that's why I'm asking this question. Right. So DMs, just blanket advice, be sure to do that. But also adventure writers, please don't do that. If there is a plot relevant item, don't put it in a stat block 200 pages later in the glossary. Put it in the part of the adventure you're reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it says at the beginning of the section about, the upcoming encounter, if it says when the NPC gets low on health, they're going to drink this potion, then the DM is likely to be aware of that. But if they're not, the DM very likely might miss it, not because they're bad at what they do, just because it was written in an unintuitive way. So that's one reason why that might be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jeff was saying earlier, I would say do whatever feels right. Whatever you think is best for the encounter. If you think that it will lead to a more interesting encounter or a more like tense encounter or whatever, then go ahead and have the enemy use that thing. If it's going to be if the fight is going to be more fun, if that enemy sticks around for another round and they have a healing potion, that can be the easy excuse. Some DMs might just, quietly scribble out some damage that enemy took or whatever. But you could very easily, you could use it as a way to teach your players, hey, you should have used more focus fire or something, because you could have killed this enemy, and because you didn't, you're watching them drink a potion that could have been yours, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like kill them before they can drink the potion,
Sure. But at the same time, that kind of feels a bit, unfair isn't really the right word. It kind of feels a little bit misdirected, because players, I've never met a player who chose not to end the fight as quickly as possible. They're all doing what they think is going to be the most effective. So don't really rub it in their face.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
that's true.
But if it makes sense, if there is, I think with healing items, it's less interesting, because then it's just, the fight just goes on longer and we get less treasure. However, if it's something like the players notice that there is, a scroll lying on the table, and then two rounds in, the enemy mage runs over, grabs the scroll, and uses it, that's cool. Yeah. Especially if you know for a fact that you've made it clear that is there, and the players are able to prevent it. If they don't prevent it and they let the NPC run over and grab it, then that is something that feels like a more dynamic part of the encounter. It feels more like there were stakes, the players had a decision, they chose one decision, and they're reaping the benefits or drawbacks of that decision. I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
If it's just you're in the middle of the fight and then the bad guy pulls out a potion and drinks it, and then he turns invisible or something. Yeah, okay. I guess that can work. If it's healing, that's not interesting to me. That's
right.
You're just making the fight last longer. But I would also say, I feel like if your intention was to give the players some cool treasure, I would say still have there be another. If you had the NPC use a potion, have an additional potion show up later in a treasure chest or something.
Right. And I think that would make it even more interesting, because then they like back to the comic with the weapon. I know this is more about consumables, but definitely with the weapons, have the enemies using the cool weapons, because then when they defeat the enemy, they get to take their weapons. It's not just I found this weapon in a pile of treasure in the evil guy's lair. It's no, I killed this guy and took his weapon. There's a story to it at that point. It's not just treasure I found because it was on a list. It was I defeated so-and-so, and now I have his weapon, and this is my weapon now. So in a similar way, have them use the potions that are in the treasure list, so that when they open up the treasure chest or whatever, they're there's more of that potion he was using. And they have a better idea of what the potion does too, without having to cast spells or whatever. They can, they might not know exactly what it did, but they'll have at least have a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to do it.
This made me think of this is fairly unrelated, but it's having the enemy use consumables.
Okay.
There's a mind control effect in World of Warcraft that some enemies have.
Okay.
That some bosses will have. And there was this, I don't know if it's a bug or if it's intentional, but there were bosses that were mind controlling players. Mm-hmm. And the idea is it's more of the player's sort of out of commission for a short period of time.
Sure.
And that player might cast a few spells at their party and do damage to it. So the idea is they're taking control and attacking the party, but for whatever reason, the mind control was having them use their Hearthstone to teleport back home.
Oh,
so they were removing them from the dungeon that they were in, and the way that it works in WoW is there are certain when you're doing dungeons, sometimes if you leave, you can't come back without penalty.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I kind of like the idea of a big bad mind controlling, or using suggestion or something on a player, and having them use their consumables that they were saving up.
Yeah.
So it just sort of that that could go bad and could be unacceptable, but I think would also be very interesting and fun.
See, here's the thing. So from a narrative standpoint, and even just from like a novelty standpoint, that is awesome. I love that idea. However, it's gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way, and for a good reason. And the reason is treasure in D&D is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
This makes me think of, I remember a long time ago, I was reading a discussion where somebody was talking about like how they hated, in 3rd edition, there was an option called Sunder. Similar to how you could grapple someone, you could trip someone, you could push someone, whatever, you could sunder. And what that means is you could attack someone's weapon, or I guess shield, or maybe armor, I don't remember, but you would make an attack roll, it was like an opposed attack roll, and then if you hit, you rolled damage, and then you dealt, some of the damage was reduced because you're attacking an object rather than a person. Whatever the case, if you attacked someone's weapon enough times, you could destroy their weapon. Even if it was a magic weapon, it would be tougher, but you could still hit it enough times and break it. And one person was saying like they hated that option. They never wanted to use it as a player, because anytime you break an enemy's weapon, that's one less piece of treasure that you're going to be getting. Yeah. Because treasure in D&D is a big deal. If like you said, if you kill a bad guy and take his magic sword, that's really cool, because that's now a big part of your character. And especially in earlier editions, 5th edition, a little bit less so, magic items were like a mandatory part of your character. You were expected to have a certain amount of magic items at a certain point. I guess you could include consumables in there. It's just like, your magic items are kind of sacred. Everybody always got upset whenever one of their magic items was taken away, whether it was stolen, whether it was destroyed, whether, I don't know, something else happened and they had to lose it for whatever reason. So it is going to feel like a huge dick move if a player gets mind controlled and then, like, I don't know, dumps out all their potions or something like that.
Yeah.
However, that's so cool. That is such a clever use of mind control. It would make a lot of sense for an enemy to do that.
Yeah.
If your concern is, I want to do this because it makes sense, I don't know if the players are going to be okay with it. Like, no, your players are not going to be okay with it. Just full stop. Your players are not going to be okay with it. But you're the DM. If you are going to do something like this, if you think it will make the encounter better, don't feel restricted by what's going to upset the players. I mean, don't be a dick, of course. If you're going to do something like this, be sure you do something to make up for it, to make the players feel awesome again. If one of the players has a really cool weapon, if you take it away, give them another cool weapon.
Right.
Don't just take away and then be like, oh, you got to live with it. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's not, yes, that is your prerogative, but no, it's not fun.
Right.
So be sure to do what's fun. If you think having an NPC use this potential treasure for the players, if you think having them use it is going to make the encounter more fun, either because it'll raise the stakes, or because you can then give them something cooler later, or whatever, use your best judgment. Don't do it if you're just trying to stick it to the players. That's not fun for anybody. But it shouldn't be off the table. It's a cool idea to me. However, it's gonna upset the players. Like even just on a gut reaction, on like a reflex, it's gonna be upsetting, but it's not the end of the world. Just be sure you do something to make up for it. Cause I love that idea. That's cool. Having the boss warp your players back out of the dungeon. Oh, right. Man. Jeff, I love that idea. I hope that was intentional.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it was intentional. The way that the dungeons work, at least like the high level dungeons work, I don't think it's intentional, because that really does screw over the player a lot.
Especially in an MMO, that is a real dick move.
Yeah,
but it's so good.
Yeah, it's really funny though.
Yeah.
It's good. It's just like suddenly they start casting a spell to teleport out of there, and they're like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the beverage tea, I would just say go for it. But be aware the players are probably going to be annoyed. And if they are, give them something, give them something to make them feel better afterwards. Make it worth their while,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, what famous or historical figure would, in your opinion, be a great dungeon master? And we were kind of loose with what, what historical figure or whatever meant. But do you recall what your answer was, Jeff?
I can't remember exactly what I said, but I think I came around to like Terry Pratchett or Neil Gaiman, even though they're not.
I do remember you saying Neil Gaiman. I don't recall if you said Terry Pratchett.
I guess because Terry Pratchett is no longer with us. I think that is a more closer to being a historical figure.
Okay.
Because he is in the past tense.
Sure.
But but like his the Discworld series was like a ton of fun. And I could see that maybe being really good for like I could see him maybe coming up with some cool adventures.
Sure. I believe there is a Discworld role-playing game.
Yeah, I would imagine so. It's like there's a Discworld point-and-click adventure game that is like one of the it's one of the ones people point to when they say like point-and-click adventure games are ridiculous and stupid.
Sure.
Sure. Because it's like, how would you know to do that? Is the anyway.
Yeah. And then I think I said I would love to play with Jim Varney. I think he'd be a great dungeon master. The guy who played Ernest in the Ernest goes to the beach or Ernest doesn't go to the beach fame.
Right. I liked Ernest goes to camp because there was a turtle. I don't know.
Right. I just think that he was a smart guy. He was a friendly guy. He would do a lot of voices. He would come up with the craziest stuff you never thought of. I just think it would be a lot of fun. Over on Facebook, Jake F. says, Bob Ross, because he would always be chill and wouldn't force every encounter to end with bloodshed. Maybe I can meet some happy little treants.
Oh, that's good.
Pretty good. That's a pretty good response. Good job. I think Bob Ross would be pretty good. I think he'd be the kind of person that would make sure every player got the right amount of attention.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll take a quick moment to just talk about Bob Ross. I think I've brought up Bob Ross in the past. I can't remember if it ever made it into the final episode or not. But I just think Bob Ross, for anybody not familiar, he was a painter, or he was known for a TV show called The Joy of Painting, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? And he would paint. He always would talk very, very calmly because I guess he was previously a drill sergeant, and he spent so much time screaming at people that he loved to just talk quietly and calmly. And so he was just so friendly, and he would paint, and you could follow along with him. And I remember the story I've heard about Bob Ross is that a guy came up to him. He was doing some public show, and this guy came up to Bob Ross and he said, I love your show, and I would love to follow along painting at home, but I can't because I'm colorblind. So, I can't see these colors that you're painting with. So it's not an option for me. So the next episode Bob Ross did, he made an episode entirely in grayscale to show that anyone can paint, anyone can be creative, anyone can do this. Don't let yourself be limited by the limitations that the world has put before you. Overcome them and do what you can with what you got. So, great guy, Bob Ross. Good answer, Jake F. Kyle S. says, I don't know if Napoleon Bonaparte would be a fun DM, but I guarantee his combat would be a strategic and tactical nightmare as a player. That's pretty good. Adam B. says, now this is a seriously difficult question, and I would love Tolkien purely for his descriptions and world building. And I believe I rebuffed your claim of Tolkien because I said there'd be too much lore. Too much world building, too much stuff the players have to read.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that's like not saying it would be bad. It's just like, it's like, they're like, yes, there's a lot of lengthy descriptions and world building and stuff that,
I mean, that's not a bad thing. I'm just I'm an old curmudgeon. I want to just get into the game. I mean, young curmudgeon, because I feel like old curmudgeons would want, I don't know, I'm some kind of curmudgeon. Sean M. says, the immortal bard. I've seriously considered making him an NPC. And it took me way too long to realize he was talking about Shakespeare.
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah, I was like, I know that refers to somebody, but I can't quite remember.
Sean put a little animated GIF of Shakespeare directly under that, which again I didn't notice for a while, and it was embarrassingly long before I realized what he was talking about. Because there's a character in one of the D&D novels that I've read, like one of the old school D&D novels that I think was called The Immortal Bard, and for a second I was like, is Sean talking about a character in D&D? Which, I mean, that'd be an interesting play, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Ian from Crit Academy says C.S. Lewis.
Okay.
And I agree. I think that would be pretty cool. I was a big fan of the Chronicles of Narnia when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were really good friends.
Sure.
So probably a lot of they probably would have, run games for each other in D&D.
Right, yeah.
Over on Reddit, Arcanist Winterbrand says, I would have to say Tim Curry. He has an iconic voice that would lend itself to an iconic big bad evil guy. I would gladly listen to an evil monologue from him any day. And that's a good answer.
Yeah, that's a good point. It like somebody who has a really good voice, like,
yes.
Or like, puts on a good production or something. Not necessarily somebody who can like tell a good story, but somebody who can, like make it entertaining. That's a good point. I didn't even think of that. Like, cause you could give a pre-written adventure to somebody who is good at performing, and that'd be a great time.
Sure. Alistar the Minotaur says, historical figure would have to be Theodore Roosevelt. That man had so many absolutely bonkers life experiences to draw inspiration from. I can't help but think his games would be incredible. At some point, you'd have to actually wrestle a bear.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
As for generally famous, Christopher Nolan, the director/writer. I just remember watching Inception and being blown away by the concept of the movie and some of the incredible visuals. I gotta believe he'd be able to come up with some really interesting, compelling campaigns.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. I guess I hadn't really thought about like movie writers or movie directors and such.
Sure. Yeah. Although they might railroad a bit more than usual.
Yeah, maybe.
Put in a few too many bois.
He would have a soundboard.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
We don't have anybody on Twitter, although it is our Twitter anniversary, so I got some balloons popped up on the screen. Over on Discord, eThompson03 says, Teddy Roosevelt. He had so many adventures of his own, he'd be sure to add his own unique spin to a story. Yeah. Black Magus 2651, which I don't think has ever replied to anything. That's pretty cool. Says, I'm thinking Denzel Washington. Think of the awesome NPC. There you go. Stiltskin Koopo 84 says, Alexander Hamilton. He wrote more than 70% of the original laws of running our government. There isn't a rules lawyer on the planet who wouldn't find his sense of organization refreshing. And he fought in wars. He stole cannons. He had friends who were spies. He knew all about action and intrigue. And there's actually a documentary about him on Disney Plus. It's called Hamilton.
Wait, are you talking about the musical?
Yes, I'm talking about the musical.
Not a documentary.
But what if it was, Jeff?
Right. Yeah, everyone sang back then, yeah. If only.
If only. The Beverage Tea says, Theodore Seuss Geisel. The world building, the NPCs, the rhyming adventures. And I believe I pronounced that name correctly. The name he is more commonly known as is Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss, right.
So yeah, Dr. Seuss would be a bonkers campaign.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
For a non-author, Ringo Starr. Not the best quality, but probably a lot of fun.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Dustin says Neil Gaiman, author of Sandman and American Gods.
Yeah,
that is a good answer. Peace Pancake says Astrid Lindgren, my favorite children's book author.
I feel like I know that name.
That is the author of Pippi Longstocking.
Oh yeah. Oh, that'd be killer.
Yeah, and Peace put a little inspirational quote from the writer. Don't let them get you down. Be cheeky and wild and wonderful.
Yeah.
She then went on to say, if the brothers Lionheart and Mio, my Mio are anything to go by, I think she'd be incredible at writing adventures too. I loved the journeys she took me on as a child, and I'm sure I'd love to be in them as a player too. Mm-hmm. I actually don't know anything about anything that author has written. but I don't know. I know Lisa likes Pippi Longstocking, at least the movie. I don't know.
There was one of the Pippi Longstocking movies, because I'm pretty sure there was like remakes and stuff like that. I don't know which one it was, but there was one I had on VHS when I was little that I would watch sometimes, and I thought it was fun.
Oh, sure. I imagine she got on crazy adventures and stuff.
Yeah. It was like, she was like a, like whimsical child with like big imagination, and like she was like, I really don't know all the details. I just know this one movie I watched a bunch when I was little.
Sure.
But like, I think she had like super strength or something, or I don't know if it was just like her I can't quite remember any of the details, honestly. But like, yeah, but it was very like, there were like, she would go on big adventures, and like her dad was I'm butchering this horribly. I am sorry, Peace Joy. But I feel like her dad was a pirate. I don't know.
Hey, it all checks out to me.
I just remember watching this movie a bunch, and like her dad comes in on a boat, I think. I don't remember. I'm sorry. but I feel like that would be a good, she'd probably be good, because like, yeah, sure. Like that was like, I don't know, like, yeah, it seemed like very whimsical and adventurous, kind of characters.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Autumn Wind says, I feel obligated to insert the suddenly realized I was Gary Oldman the whole time joke, but serious answer, C.S. Lewis, the author of the Chronicles of Narnia. Classic fantasy, and he even incorporated Father Christmas.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Floofy Shoob says, if he were still alive, Douglas Adams. I mean, if he wasn't still alive, that wouldn't be a very fun game, I guess.
Right. Douglas Adams was
Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah, okay, that's what
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
The DM's Council says, I would have liked to see the psychological aspects of Sigmund Freud's concepts of the player's interpretations of monsters. The monster design of H.R. Giger would be amazing. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, any DM that is able to use like the psychology of the players to their advantage is going to have a good time, I think.
Sure.
And then one more. Seawood Scribe says, depends on the type of campaign. A well-rounded, entertaining campaign with diverse and highly motivated NPCs engaging in ferocious combat and a gripping plot. I think King Louis XIV would be excellent. For more niche campaigns, here are some ideas. War and high combat. I'd love to be in a game run by Homer. Not the Simpsons character, of course, but the Greek bard.
Oh, sure.
Suetonius for a political intrigue game. An off-the-walls, anything-goes game, Nero. For agonizing moral ambiguity at every turn, Soren Kierkegaard. And for Lovecraftian horror, well, H.P. Lovecraft.
Sure.
Honorable mention to Aristotle, Alexander the Great, Cleopatra, and Sun Tzu.
Gabe.
Yeah.
I looked it up real quick. I Googled, did Pippi Longstockings have powers?
Okay.
She apparently does have super strength, super speed, invulnerability, superhuman breath, and the power of flight.
Okay.
So I'm not insane. I was like, I'm pretty sure she's like a folk hero kind of a thing,
Okay.
It's like, she kind of just she could just do whatever was,
sure.
Whatever what it was going to get her through the adventure or whatever.
Does she have the superpower of her dad being a pirate?
He was a captain. I know that for sure.
Close enough.
So I'm not insane.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll do it for our last social media question. Our next social media question is, what D&D environment, that is, like dungeon, forest, urban, underwater, etc., which one is your favorite and why?
I think I'd have to go with dungeon.
Okay.
I mean, like, because you could have a dungeon within a lot of different environments. So, sure. Like the theming of the dungeon could be a lot of different things. So, like, you could have a dungeon that you found in a cove underwater cave or something like that.
That's true.
So I mean, like, yeah. Beyond that, maybe a forest or jungle or something like that, I think.
Okay. I was thinking dungeon as well, just because I love the idea of there being traps and secret doors everywhere.
Yeah.
I like the unpredictability. Like in a forest, Yeah, sure, there's stuff you won't predict in a forest, but like in a dungeon, like anything, there could be anything around that next corner. There could be a forest around that next corner.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like dungeon is might be too broad.
I don't know, maybe.
But you know,
if all of our listeners say dungeon, then we'll know what to do next time.
Or if you say dungeon, what kind of dungeon?
I guess sure.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like abandoned city dungeon. I'm just thinking of Jadaroon from the Shackled City.
Sure, yeah.
And there is a room in that is a forest.
Yeah,
so.
It's like you like maybe like a crypt or like a holy temple or something like that.
Sure.
Or like I don't know. Giant black sphere that fell from the sky, housing a bunch of like dragon monsters or something.
Not a black sphere. It is a metal sphere.
Oh, okay.
Giant metal sphere.
Well, I thought it was called the black egg.
No, the black egg. The thing that falls from the sky is the Fane of Scales.
Oh.
The black egg is an artifact inside the Fane of Scales.
Ah.
Yes.
Okay. So I had a misconception in my head. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. And you could be forgiven for mistaking that for the black egg.
Right. It's been a long time since we've
yes
dealt with that.
Right. Anyway, so yeah, listeners, let us know what you think. If we were too broad with dungeon, let us know. But I feel like some people are going to say things other than dungeon.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess we'll find out. Anyway, that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, let's wind down. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have made the world a better place by sacrificing their lives, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by High Tech Low Life on Reddit. And they said, I played a 17-year-old draftee in edition 3.5. He was rescuing some farm girl and she thanked him with a kiss. After the third or fourth kiss, he made his save and realized she was a succubus and was draining his levels.
Oh no.
But he decided he didn't care. She was cute and he wasn't going anywhere. Yeah.
Oh my
so,
goodness.
Rest in peace, Corwin, character's name. Let's raise a glass in memory of Corwin, as we say. Well, he may have died, but he died as he lived. Clink. I don't know. I don't know if he lived that way. I don't know. Stop looking at me, Jeff. All right. I think that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Reddit. We're on our Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. We're on the podcatcher of your choice. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you want to support the show monetarily, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games, or you can watch me play video games live at twitch.tv/tiltedturtle.
Yes. Also head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
Gabe, did you drink my last potion?
Oh, shoot.